I don't know if this is a me problem or if it's even really that much of a problem. But I think I have become more critical of people. And even if it's not critical of people in that it's changing how I view people and how I want to be friends with them or how I treat them differently, it changes how I view people. I'm a lot more perceptive, I think, now of negative aspects of people. I don't know where this change came from. Where maybe it was through self reflection. When I was more critical of myself, I was able to identify things that I didn't like that I was doing, things I wanted to improve at. And then in recognizing that, I began to recognize these same kind of things and began to use the same lens on other people. I wouldn't even say this is always a negative thing and that I'm only looking for negative and bad things. I feel like I've just become a lot more perceptive and critical of how I think of people as well. People aren't just black boxes as much to me now, where it's just like you're a friend, you're a coworker, and I think this and I think that, and I like to spend time with you and stuff like that. I feel like for me, I have become more of a painter for people. I like to create character profiles of people. I like to be like, this person has these traits, and I've observed them in these circumstances. And these are things that I like about them, and I think they do well. And these are things that I don't like about them, and I wish they didn't do, right? And a lot of these things, when they're part of a character profile, a painting of someone, like the same things that are bad can always be interpreted as a good thing, right? So some things, like this is one that I'll talk about later in this episode, but being nosy, that's like the negative part of being nosy, right? But being nosy can also be framed as a positive thing. It can mean you're very in touch, you're very curious about like what your friends are doing because you want to get to know them better, and you're very also, I don't know, just invested in the people around you. You want to know how they're doing so then you can make them happier as well and make sure that they're having happy lives and you're being a good friend to them as well. See, that's one way to frame being nosy, which is definitely a negative connotation, with something more positive. So I think in general, I've been a lot more attuned to when people display these kinds of things. And it's allowed me to like paint character profiles for a lot of the people around me. And I think part of the reason why I've been doing this is being in a new environment where moving to a new city. This is a new chapter in my life. I'm starting a new job. And in turn, I'm meeting a lot of new people. So it's not like in college where you become familiar over the past 4 years. You're seeing the same people. And maybe you've already developed a character profile and you're filling in the small details. Now, I think I've developed this again because I'm painting the broad strokes. I'm figuring out the big parts of what people are. And maybe in a year or two, I'll be more focused on the smaller details. So, what does this have to do with what I want to talk about in this episode? One thing that I think really displays somebody's character or things about them is when alcohol removes the outer sheen. The sheen, I would say, is basically, I don't know, your facade, your outer personality, that reservation that you display. Because you don't want to show everything to people that you are maybe not very close with or not familiar with. But somehow, alcohol is the greatest sheen remover there is. The sheen is always gone, and you get to see behind the sheen when alcohol is involved because people get loose and people start talking about things and really displaying, I think, who they really are. So this really happened because recently I've been going out with some friends from work, and some of the friends from work then bring other friends, and it's just all these like pre-games before people go out for the night where there's alcohol being passed around, right? And when the alcohol starts flowing and people start displaying who they are, and you see behind the sheen, I start picking up and I'm able to paint these pictures of people. And a lot of the times I think the sheen removal displays more of the bad than the good. Now, I already said before, the bad can be construed as good things as well. But I think a lot of times when alcohol removes these things, it comes out as bad instead of as good. So one of these things is being bossy. I have a friend from work, and they I don't know, I would say they are very judgmental when I see them. And I think my first impressions of them was they always had an air of confidence. They had an air of, I don't know, I would say inner confidence. So there's like two types of confidence: inner confidence, external confidence. I feel like external confidence is confidence in doing things that you are not comfortable with, right? In exploring outside of your comfort zone, in that kind of stuff where people go up to strangers on the street and ask them weird questions, or do like a little dance in public, or something that might be considered embarrassing. I think that's external confidence. This person, I thought they had internal confidence. Internal confidence is confidence in doing the stuff that you are comfortable with and not being afraid of it. So this is the type of person where I would not think they would be self-conscious if they were doing something and maybe other people thought it was weird. They just do it because it's something that they're comfortable with. This is the kind of person that I thought of. This person with internal confidence, right? Now, when we were at this party and the alcohol started flowing and they had a couple shots and they started going in, I found that this internal confidence turned into a negative thing. It turned into this kind of bossy energy that I didn't really like. This person, I mean, you can view it as a positive thing also because they were in charge. This internal confidence then spread into them being able to take control of the situation. So what was happening was lots of people were drunk and they were trying to wrangle people to get to the club, right? And this internal confidence then came out through this control, through telling people, hey, we gotta go, and telling people to hurry up. And again, this is not necessarily a bad thing. And in fact, it's often a good thing. It shows like leadership traits, right? But I didn't like it because the energy that came out of it, perhaps what I thought was internal confidence with the sheen, now when I look behind the sheen, it was just having a bossy energy. And they were just, in a way, ordering people around, which makes sense, but they were doing it in a tone that I didn't like. And this all happened because the sheen was removed. I don't think they would have been quite like this. And because if there was still a sheen and there was no alcohol, and I saw them like this, I'd probably still mistake it as, or interpret it as internal confidence. But now, I saw it more as bossy energy. Another negative thing that I saw was people being pushy and enablers, right? When you have the sheen there, when the alcohol is not present, I saw this more as people that wanted to include others in the fun. In that they were telling them, yeah, get in here, have a drink, blah, 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 right? And then when the sheen was removed and these people started having more drinks and it started getting more and more, this turned into enabling and being pushy to dangerous extremes. This happened where someone was clearly feeling unwell and had too much to drink. And these people were still telling them, have another shot, keep drinking. They were being pushy, and this, before the sheen, with the sheen, I would have interpreted as something more positive. But behind the sheen, when the sheen was gone, and when the alcohol had come in, these turned into negative traits that I didn't like. It's very interesting. I don't think I have a point that I want to say about this video. But perhaps the point is that all of these things, they're positive and negative, and it's depending on how you see them. And I think for me, as I've become more perspective and perceptive of this, given my new environment and how so much is changing in my life, I kind of have to adopt this attitude. I've also observed that the sheen of alcohol, when it's removed by alcohol, when your external sheen and facade that you put up, it changes the same behaviors that you exhibit and gives it a new light. And these examples that I've given paints it in a bad light. Well, I think there are ways to show the goodness as well. And it's very interesting. I just thought. I didn't know that the sheen was such a two-way mirror, I guess you could say.